Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another FIFA 21 tactic video. It's been a little while since we've done like an individual formation look at some tactics. Now this weekend league, I had a tough weekend. I say I had a tough weekend. I still managed to get Elite 3, but it wasn't my best weekend. I did struggle. A lot of people seem to, it's something I heard quite a lot of people seem to struggle this weekend league. They found it really, really difficult. Not just maybe because of gameplay or anything, it's just the quality of opponent this week seemed to be quite high for some reason. I found in a lot of my games I was really having to play some top FIFA, like as good as I could just to win. So it just seemed like it was really difficult this week. But I struggled myself. I didn't play very well. My formations didn't seem to work. I kind of did the cardinal sin of really changing formations mid-weekend league, trying to find something that would work, quick fix. And you should never ever do that. Once you start a weekend league with a formation, you really should finish the week with that formation, because if you start to like chop and change, you're gonna create more problems than solutions. So today I've got my adjusted tactics for my 4-2-2, which is kind of what I'm going back to for this weekend league. Now regarding the 4-2-2, is one of my favorite formations in the game. I experimented last week with the 5-3-2 and it worked very, very well. There's just a few things about it that I didn't like, so I've got it on a separate tactic. I'm going to be adjusting it. But the 4-2-2 this week, I've made a conscious effort to play more rivals this week. I don't really play too much rivals. I've only won like 45 games all year. I just don't like playing Division 1 because the quality of opponent is really high and it's just not enjoyable. But if I want to get better, want to improve, want to get sharper for team in the season, I'm going to have to do it. So I went back to this 4-2-2. I'm going to start with the 4-2-2 and then work out from there. Now the 4-2-2 is one of my favorite formations. Big fan of it all year. I've used it pretty much all year, and it's just a formation that I just seem to click with. Every time I seem to go back to it, it just seems to work. I seem to go back to winning lots of games. It kind of makes you wonder why change away from it in the first place. Now, in including the tactics, where we're going with the tactics, defensive style. This is something that I was experimenting with a lot and just having no success with. I'm going back to balance with a defensive style. Now, the main reason, I was playing a lot on pressure on heavy touch. Now, the biggest problem with pressure on heavy touch, or any kind of a press, even like press on possession loss or constant pressure, this central cam here that you don't have, if you imagine your opponent is playing a 4-2-3-1, he's got two CDMs. Where are those two CDMs going to be? The space between Cruyff, Messi, Kimmich and Seedorf, that is where the two CDMs of your opponents are going to sit. So when you lose the ball and you now need to press, you don't naturally have like a central cam who's going to be able to put pressure on those two CDMs. You're going to have to like drag your strikers back. You have to drag your midfielders forward. You have to drag somebody out of position. So you don't naturally have someone there. So playing on a press just doesn't work. There's too many holes in this formation. Whereas you look at, for example, like a 4-4-2. The reason why a 4-4-2 is so good in a press, you can see there's just no obvious spaces. The team presses and there's just no, it doesn't leave any gaps. Whereas in the 4-2-2, not having that central cam is a big hole for your midfielders. So it makes a press really easy to play around in this formation. So for that reason, I'm going back to balance. I'm just gonna go back to balance. I'm just gonna rely on manually pressing the ball myself, which is something I'm really trying to get better at. Something I've not been too good at this year, so I need to get back to doing that. In terms of defensive width, it doesn't really make too much difference where you go. As long as you're somewhere between 5 and 7, I think you're doing it okay. I don't think it's really a good idea to go super narrow or super wide. In terms of depth, again, that's kind of more up to you. I think because I'm not going on a press now, I think around 7 is a good depth for me. It's kind of where I feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable. I know some people say like they get like going for super high on 10. I don't like that personally. I think that's a little bit too over the top for me. 7 seems to be my sweet spot, so that's kind of where I'm going to stay. Offensive style is where there's the biggest change for me, because this is where I change based on who I'm playing. And I don't like go out my way to make, but if my opponent makes a pause, then I will go and change this. But in terms of what I start with long ball. Now, long ball has its downsides, and the negatives to using long ball is when you play against somebody who's playing really deep, or when you're playing against somebody who presses really, really well, long ball's not super effective. An example would be, if let's say my Cruyff makes a running behind and I'm on the ball with Kimmich, and I can't get the ball to him because let's say he presses me really well, Now Cruyff has ran offside, and for some reason in this game, it takes ages for when your players run offside, it takes ages for them to get back. So now I've got one less player in the game. I'm going to have to play the ball backwards until Cruyff gets back on side. So it can cause some issues, and when people are playing really deep, there's not much space in behind for your strikers to run in behind to. A lot of the time they're running behind, there's not really any space, and now there's just a mass of bodies in the way, and you just end up having to play the ball backwards or sideways. So it has its downsides, but when people aren't playing on a press or really deep, long ball is super good. But when you are playing people who are playing really deep on a press, I switch to fast build up, and this is really important. You have to do this based on who you're playing, because if you just play one style or the other, you'll come unstuck. So when you're playing someone deep, you need to play quick to try and move them around. When you're playing someone who's pressing you, you have to get rid of the ball really quick so their press is ineffective. So you have to play fast build up in that regard. Now the downside is it can leave you sometimes a little bit open for counterattacks, but I'm willing to take that risk because I feel like I'm going to create more chances than it's going to hinder me. It's just something you have to live with when using the offensive styles. In terms of offensive width, around 6 or 7 is where I switch to. Again, kind of around about 7 is where I feel comfortable. Players in the box, around about 6. Like to have a fair few amount of players in the box. In terms of corners, man, I don't know what to do with corners anymore. I just never ever seem to score when I cross the ball. My defenders never seem to head it. When I go short, I always seem to get countered. So I don't think it really matters. So I just go on 1. It literally makes no difference. It's whatever you fancy. If you've got good corner routines, then go on to whatever you feel like. But for me, it just doesn't seem to make any difference. In terms of the offensive style, now basically the fullbacks is where we want to start with. I've gone for them on balance. Now the reason why I've gone for them on balanced and conservative interceptions, it's really, really good because we're playing on fast build-up as well. If we're playing on fast build-up, these guys are on balance because on fast build-up, they're going to be going forwards anyway. Even if you have them on stay while attacking, if you use fast build-up, they're going to go forward. So if I'm playing fast build-up, I have them on balanced attack. If I'm playing on long ball, then I'll have them on stay back, and I will change that based on how my opponent's playing and how they're going. So that's just something that changes on the fly. In terms of Van der Sar on comes for crosses and sweep keeping, you see Trent, he's going to be on balanced and conservative as well. The midfielders, again, this changes based on who I'm playing. If I'm playing someone who's playing that pressing game, because I'm going to have the fullbacks going forwards, then these guys will need to stay back. But if my opponent is if my opponent is not sitting deep or is not pressing, then these guys can afford to be on balanced as well. So if I'm playing the fast build-up game, these guys can afford to be on balance, and playing the long ball game, they can afford to be on stay back while attacking. So these two change based on, again, what my opponent is doing. And cut passing lanes is where I always like to go to. It's always important to cover passing lanes rather than man marking. In terms of the outside attacking mids, Omri and Rooney, I basically just have them on free roam. I just like them to drift around. Sometimes they'll find themselves in that central cam spot. Sometimes they'll find themselves really wide on the wing. I just like the unpredictability that brings with them. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. And then Cruyff, we've got on balanced width, getting behind, come back on defense, as we mentioned in the last video. Come back on defense is not so that they come back when we're defending. Come back on defense is so that they come off the striker when I'm out of possession, because when I'm in possession, they'll just pin themselves to the striker. So when I try and play the ball up to them, the centre-back will then get around and push them out the way and win the ball real easy. If they just create 5-6 yards of separation by being on comeback on defense, that means the defender's not going to be able to attack them and get the ball off them as well. And it might create a good give-and-go situation because we've dragged a defender out of position now. Messi, I've actually got onto the false 9 position. This is mainly because sometimes I'm going to want him to drop into that number 10 position, just to kind of create a little bit of, confusion for my opponent. So he's going to maybe sometimes chase Messi back into that midfield spot, and then players like Rooney and Henry, who are on free roam, might find themselves in that right striking spot, and they're going to be running in behind. But it's going to be easy because we've managed to pull maybe a defender or a midfielder or a centre-back or someone out of position because they're going to have been chasing Messi. So false 9 as well is there as well, just to kind of maybe make it a little bit easier to link the play up in certain scenarios. So Messi's just there to that. Again, the player who's got better passing and dribbling is probably the one that you want to do that if you want to cover that. But that is it for my 4-2-2 tactics. That's what I'm going to be taking into Weekend League this week. I had really good success with this. I played about 15, 16 games of Rivals, made a good effort to play a good chunk of Rivals games, won about 14 of them, so my skill rating is close to like 2200 now, so it's starting to climb the skill rating. But really happy with these tactics, and hopefully these will be good for me going into the Weekend League, because we didn't have the best weekend last week. I was chopping and changing a lot with formations and tactics and things like that, and just something you should never do. Get a set of tactics that you want to take into a Weekend League. And then unless something drastically goes wrong, make sure you stick with them throughout the whole weekend league. So go and try these out and see if these work for you. But that's it for today's video, guys. Make sure you drop a thumbs up. Make sure you do subscribe as well if you are new to the channel and did enjoy the content. Make sure you join the Discord down below. We're close to 500 members now. So make sure you do join down there for more tips on FIFA 21. But that is it for today, guys. Have an awesome day. I'm out.